The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. 53 areas in Quezon City are now under special concern lockdown or granular lockdowns due to the rising cases of COVID-19. Among these include Pook Palares in Barangay UP Campus, which was placed under granular lockdown just last night. This comes after 8 residents tested positive for COVID-19. The infected individuals were immediately brought to the Hope Quarantine Facility, while other residents will all undergo swab testing, as well as a mandatory 14-day quarantine. Meanwhile, 5 compounds along 2 separate streets are also under special concern lockdown in Barangay Piñahan. Barangay officials admit some of them are still trying to get used to the policy while having to fulfill their other duties. On the other hand, the Convent of the Holy Spirit, the Religious of the Virgin Convent, as well as the Gentle Hands Orphanage are also under lockdown. This has over 100 people in total tested positive in these establishments, while the entire Metro Manila just shifted to a new alert level system. This policy is nothing new for the Quezon City LGU. That's because they've been placing areas under granular lockdown since May.
Hindi na kami masyado nahihirapan na sanay na kami sa Quezon City. Mag-identify ng mga special concern na.
An advisor to the National Task Force on COVID-19 warns that the case trend will continue to rise at least until the end of the month. Speaking on 1PH's Wagpo, Dr. Ted Herbosa said that based on their computations, the country's daily COVID-19 caseload is still at its acceleration phase and will peak by next week. Herbosa notes that the steady rise in infections will only start slowing down after September.
That's why some of the doctors oppose yung alert level 4 lang. Kasi nga, nag-open up tayo eh. Di ba? So that means na aakyat siya, mapupuno yung ospital, baka some people will die kasi hindi ka mahanap ng ospital. And then, tsaka pa lang tayo bababa after September.
Meanwhile, MMDA chairperson Benher Abalos tells One News' The Chiefs that they are expecting almost 80% of NCR residents to be fully vaccinated by mid-October. That's equivalent to 3 out of every 4 people in Metro Manila already inoculated by next month. Abalos says the capital region is also on track to hitting almost 90% of its 90% vaccination of its target population before Christmas.
So October 15, hopefully with the second dose, no, we will be hitting 79.3 or almost 80% of all of Metro Manila. That is about 7.8 million. At naka-reserve na yan kay Sec Beans, yung second dose na yan. Imagine almost 80%, 79 point something, no? At December 15, siguro kaya na natin 88.99, halos 90% na tayo by December 15.
Some Metro Manila residents are worried that their water lines will be disconnected now that the strict lockdown in the capital has been lifted. But Maynilad and Manila Water are assuring their customers the payment deadlines will be extended. Shaila Francisco with the story.
Elena has been unable to pay her household's water bills for 3 months now. Their supply was almost disconnected. That is until Metro Manila was placed under strict quarantine restrictions last month. But with the lifting of MECQ yesterday, she fears the disconnection will push through. While her husband has returned to work, she says he wouldn't get his salary immediately.
Makakabayad siguro kami pa isa-isa. Hindi yung kabuuhan kasi medyo mabigat din. Siyempre kakain din kami. Tapos yung anak na tumutulong sa akin, may ginagatas 2. Ngayon nga ang sahod niya, 6 na araw lang. Ay, yung trabaho naman ng asawa ko, construction, paputol-putol din. Tulad yan ko, umpisa pa lang. Hindi mo pa alam kung ilan araw lang din.
With the new alert level system, the MWSS clarifies that suspension of disconnection services will only apply in areas under alert level 5 or granular lockdown.
If there's a granular lockdown, no disconnection. Ayaw po natin na magdagdag ng hirap sa ating mga consumers na naka-lockdown na nga sila, hindi sila makalabas, hindi sila makapasok ng trabaho at kumita, hindi din sila makapunta sa payment centers eh. So bakit pa natin papahirapan sila? Back to normal if you are in an area that's under alert level 1 to 4 and not under granular lockdown. So you can be disconnected.
Still, Manila Water decided not to disconnect water lines until the end of September, regardless of the alert level. Maynilad will be doing the same, but they will start issuing notice of disconnections to remind customers of unsettled bills. For now, MWS has advised its customers to settle their bills to help the water concessionaires fund their operations.
Pag hindi po sila makakuha po or makakollect ng kanilang revenues, ay ito po ay pwede po maapektuhan ang kanilang operations dahil wala po silang cash flow at hindi po sila makakapagbili ng mga requirements, hindi po sila pwede magpasahod, hindi po sila pwede magbayad ng kanilang utang, hindi sila pwedeng makabayad ng kanilang mga capex spending. So may effect po lahat yan.
Customers who are still unable to pay can go to their service provider for flexible payment terms.
You can pay it, utay-utayin nyo babayaran, you can pay it siguro mga 6 months. 3 to 6 months ang normal binibigay. They are in a very good position to provide flexible payment terms to the consumers who are unable to pay. Usually, they are required to have at least 3 months buffer for their operations. So, pag lumampas ng 3 months, medyo manipis na ang kanilang cash flow.
Shaila Francisco, VR1 News.
Council of some drug war victims believes that the ICC trial will still roll even without the government's cooperation. But the palace is confident that without their help, the case is as good as dead. Mobile journalist Panelo gives us the front seat to the story.
With overwhelming joy and trepidation, that's how families of the victims of the government's war on drugs welcome the news that the International Criminal Court has decided to proceed with an investigation. The National Union of People's Lawyers, or NUPL, which represents some of the families, has vowed full cooperation throughout the process. It says it doesn't matter even if the Duterte administration does not participate.
The ICC process will continue. The witnesses will submit their testimony and evidence during the investigation with or without the cooperation of the President of the Philippines.
But we're still a long way off from any decision. Pre-trial investigations can run from 1 month to as much as 4 years. The trial proper in general takes 6 or more years. Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo has already said ICC investigators would not be permitted to enter the country. While presidential spokesman Harry Roque says he's confident the case will never reach the trial stage, much less lead to charges.
Ang aking prediction po, matutulog lang po yung kasong yan dahil in the absence of cooperation, lalong-lalo na sa kapulisan, wala po talagang ebidensya na makakalap.
The ICC said that the evidence suggested that the code, widespread and systematic attack against the civilian population took place pursuant to a state policy. The probe will look into alleged crimes between November 1, 2011 to March 16, 2019. That period covers the time Duterte was mayor of Davao, with the court saying there's sufficient evidence linking the killings in Davao to the war on drugs campaign. The court also pointed out that although the Philippines has withdrawn from the Rome Statute, it still has jurisdiction over that period. In the original complaint, other names mentioned were Senator Ronald De La Rosa and former Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre II. But of course, it's President Duterte's name that came up the most.
And I think if he will not participate, this will go into a full-blown trial where we are very confident President Duterte will be convicted by the International Criminal Court.
I'm Pamela Vasquez and we are One News.
Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Sal Panelo says cooperating with the ICC probe into the government's war on drugs would be a violation of the Constitution. That's why Panelo insisted that the administration cannot help the International Court with its proceedings. Speaking with the big story, Panelo cited the Rome Statute, saying that a probe can only continue despite the country's withdrawal from the ICC, only if the investigation has already started. But in this case, only a preliminary examination was done. Panelo added that there is another condition that needs to be met for an investigation on crimes against humanity to begin, and that's if the state is unwilling to prosecute or unable to do so.
Ang ating hukuman dito ay malusog na malusog. It's functioning. We've been prosecuting. We have trials, we have conviction. In fact, marami na nga nakakulong.
Yes,
So,
sir.
hindi mo masasabi na unwilling tayo or unable. Pag sinabi naman nila unable, kasi daw, hindi mo pwedeng i-demanda dahil may immunity. But that applies only kung siya nakaupo. Pero pagbaba niya, you can still prosecute the president.
However, for the Human Rights Watch, the ICC can still proceed with its investigation, even without the government's cooperation. In an interview with 1PH sa Totoo Lang, HRW senior Philippines researcher Carlos Conde said the court can still obtain pieces of evidence to make its case regardless of the state's cooperation. Conde also agreed that the judicial system of the Philippines remains functioning, but not for the victims of the drug war.
Hindi naman sinasabing yung buong judicial system or criminal justice system ng gobyerno hindi gumagana. May gumagana naman. Ang problema lang dito, pagdating sa mga biktima ng drug war, sobrang walang nangyayari. Tingnan nyo naman yung naging epekto ng investigasyon na wala. Iisa pa lang kaso ang nahatulan ng korte. Out of the thousands and thousands of cases. So kumbaga, ang sinasabi natin, yung judicial system ng Pilipinas ay hindi gumagana pagdating dito sa patayan na related sa drug war at yung sa Davao Death Squad.
A SpaceX rocket ship blasted off from Florida on Wednesday. Carrying a billionaire e-commerce executive and 3 private citizens, he chose to join it. And this is the first all-civilian crew ever launched on a flight to Earth orbit. A quartet of amateur space travelers, led by Shift4 Payments executive Jared Isaacman, lifted off from the Kennedy Space Center at 8:03 p.m. A webcast of the launch showed Isaacman and his crewmates strapped into the pressurized cabin of their gleaming white SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule dubbed Resilience. Mission officials said the flight is expected to last about 3 days from launch to splash down in the Atlantic, and it marked the debut flight of SpaceX owner Elon Musk's new orbital tourism business, and a leap ahead of competitors likewise offering joyrides on rocket ships to customers. Here's a quick look at some of today's headlines. Total COVID-19 cases in the country are forecast to reach the 3 million mark by mid-October. But experts say we may be close to the peak of the current wave. Devotees flocked Quiapo Church this morning, just a day after the minor basilica reopened under Alert Level 4. And in sports, Blackwater now holds the record for the longest losing streak in PBA history. And those are the top stories at this hour. Join us again later at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime and anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.